Ringing. A Tuesday afternoon in March 2019, Karen Whitfield was folding laundry when the landline rang, the number they almost canceled. She picked up. A girl's voice, young, maybe 14. She asked for her dad. Karen said she had the wrong number. The girl said his name. Daniel Whitfield. Karen's hands stopped moving. The laundry fell. She stood there in the hallway, phone against her ear, listening to a teenager on the other end describe a man Karen had slept next to for 16 years. Same laugh, the girl said. He does this thing with his hands when he's nervous. Karen knew exactly what thing. She had noticed it too. On their wedding day. The phone call lasted 4 minutes and 11 seconds. It ended 11 years of silence. Daniel Whitfield was the kind of man other men trusted with their money. Certified public accountant, 22 years licensed in Ohio. His office on Elm Street had a waiting room with diplomas in matching frames. He coached Little League in 2009 and 2010. He drove a sensible Buick. He never missed church on Easter. Karen met him in 1998 at a mutual friend's barbecue. He brought potato salad. She remembered that detail specifically, that he brought potato salad, not beer, not nothing. He had what she later called considered kindness. They married in 2003. By 2008, they had 2 daughters, a mortgage at 5.4%, and a joint checking account Daniel insisted on managing himself. He said it was easier. He said he was the professional. She believed him. Why wouldn't she? He brought potato salad. It started in 2008, the same year Karen was pregnant with their second daughter. Psychologists call it compartmentalization, the mind's ability to build airtight walls between incompatible truths, to function normally in both rooms simultaneously. Daniel had met a woman named Tricia. He was doing her taxes. She was 26. He was 34. By April 2008, while Karen was in her second trimester, Daniel opened a separate checking account at a different bank, a branch on the east side of Columbus, 23 miles from their house. He deposited $800. He told Tricia it was just to help. A loan, he said. He would later describe it that way in court documents. A loan. 11 years later, that loan had grown to $247,000. And a daughter. And a life that looked, in almost every way, exactly like the one he already had. Because Daniel was an accountant, he understood paper trails. He built a system. Every wire transfer to Tricia's account was coded under a business expense category called consulting, subcontractor fees. He had actual clients who were subcontractors. The entries didn't stand out. He varied the amounts, $1,400 one month, $2,100 the next, $900 another. Never round numbers. Round numbers attract attention. He knew that. Across 11 years, he made 163 separate transfers. He kept a private spreadsheet. Not on the family computer, on a thumb drive he stored inside a hollowed-out tax code manual on the bottom shelf of his office bookcase. Karen never touched that shelf. She had no reason to. The spreadsheet had 2 columns, what he sent and what he told himself he would pay back. The second column never changed. It read, pending. Tricia gave birth in November 2009. A girl. They named her Lily. Daniel was in the delivery room. He held her in the parking garage afterward and cried. He then drove 23 miles home. Karen was at her mother's that weekend. He walked through the front door, hung his coat on the hook, and made himself dinner. Scrambled eggs. He watched the news. He went to bed. This is what researchers call affective compartmentalization at a clinical level, the complete suppression of emotional residue between behavioral contexts. In plain terms, he turned it off. Lily grew up believing her father traveled for work. He came every other weekend. He attended her school plays. He was there for her first steps, captured on video. He kept on his phone under a folder labeled Client Docs. She called him Dad. He answered. Lily was 9 when she got her first phone. By 14, she had memorized her father's numbers, both of them, because Tricia kept both in her contacts under his name, different area codes. A Tuesday in March 2019. Lily was trying to reach Daniel. She dialed the wrong one, the Columbus number, the home number. Karen picked up on the third ring. The conversation lasted 4 minutes and 11 seconds, as Karen would later reconstruct from the phone bill. She did not hang up. She asked careful questions. Lily, 14, guileless, proud of her father, answered them. She mentioned the Buick. She mentioned the Little League coaching he did when she was small. She mentioned that he always brought food to events. Potato salad, Lily said, specifically. Karen stood in the hallway and felt the floor tilt, not metaphorically. She grabbed the wall. She did not call Daniel at work. She did not text him. She sat in the kitchen, the smell of that morning's coffee still in the air, and waited 3 hours until she heard his key in the lock. He came in smiling, said something about traffic on 71, opened the refrigerator, the cold spill of light. She said, "Tell me about Lily." He closed the refrigerator door very slowly, turned around. This is the moment Karen describes most precisely, his face cycling through 4 expressions in under 2 seconds. First, confusion performed. Second, calculation genuine. Third, the decision to deny. Fourth, the collapse when he understood she already knew. He started with, "It's complicated." She slid the phone bill across the counter. The paper made a sound on the tile. 4 minutes, 11 seconds, she said, to the Columbus number. He sat down. He didn't sit in his usual chair. He sat in hers. She has never stopped noticing that. The next morning, Karen drove to Daniel's office before he arrived. The parking lot was empty. Cold air, the smell of old paper and carpet cleaner when she pushed the door open. She had a key. She'd always had a key. She went to the bottom shelf, found the tax code manual. The thumb drive was inside, cold and small in her palm. She drove to the FedEx on Reed Road. $18. 241 pages, still warm from the printer. She sat in the parking lot and read every one. Pale morning light through the windshield, the sound of her own breathing. 163 transfers across 11 years. The first, April 14, 2008, $800. The most recent, February 3, 2019, $2,300. She totaled them on her phone's calculator. $247,000 even. She called her sister. She said, "I need an attorney." She did not cry. Her sister did. Karen did not cry until 4 days later, alone in her car outside a Kroger, for reasons she still cannot fully explain. When Karen returned home, Daniel had prepared a speech. She could tell. It had the cadence of something rehearsed. He said Tricia had been in crisis. He said it started as kindness and became a trap. He used the word trapped 4 times in 6 minutes. He said he had been trying to find a way out. He said he loved Karen. He said Lily was innocent and deserved a father. Every sentence was technically true and collectively a lie. This is the architecture of sophisticated deception. Individual facts, arranged, to redirect blame and generate sympathy. He did not say, "I chose this." He did not say, "I built a life." He did not say, "I named her." Karen listened without speaking. When he finished, she asked one question. What was Lily's birthday? He told her without hesitating. November 17th, 2009. Karen left the room. Karen Whitfield was 41 years old. She had a paralegal certification she'd never used. She stopped working when their first daughter was born. She re-enrolled in courses within a week of finding the thumb drive. She contacted a forensic accountant recommended by her divorce attorney. She documented every transfer with timestamps and cross-referenced them against Daniel's business tax filings for 11 years. The forensic accountant found that Daniel had deducted $61,000 of those transfers as legitimate business expenses, meaning he had also committed tax fraud. Karen forwarded that finding to the IRS in June 2019. She did not do this in anger. She did it methodically, the way Daniel had always admired about her, her precision, he used to say, her ability to see a problem clearly. He had complimented the exact quality that would dismantle him. Divorce proceedings began August 2019 and concluded 14 months later. Ohio is an equitable distribution state. The court considered the $247,000 in marital asset dissipation. Corinne's attorney argued those funds should be reimbursed from Daniel's share of the marital estate, the house, the retirement accounts, his business valuation. The judge agreed on $198,000. The remaining $49,000 was deemed spent too long prior to the statutory look-back window. Daniel's accounting practice was valued at $340,000. Corinne received the house, 60% of retirement assets, and child support for their 2 daughters. Daniel's attorney argued he had been a good father. Corinne's attorney noted he had been a good father to 3 children, not 2. The judge said nothing. But she wrote it in the margin of her notes. Corinne's attorney saw it. She told Corinne later over coffee. They both sat with that. Daniel gave one interview to a local Ohio financial advice podcast 18 months after the divorce. He agreed to speak anonymously. He called it a failure of courage, not character. He said he had stayed in both relationships because he didn't want to hurt anyone. He said the money had been an obligation, not a gift. He said he believed genuinely that he could have resolved everything without anyone getting hurt. The host asked, "How?" Daniel paused for 11 seconds. The podcast left the pause in. He said, "I hadn't figured that out yet." He was 51 at the time of the interview. He had been running that calculation for 11 years. He still hadn't solved it. This is cognitive dissonance at its most durable. A man sustaining 2 irreconcilable identities, not through malice, but through an absolute refusal to reach the conclusion those identities required. In March 2021, the IRS issued a civil fraud penalty against Daniel Whitfield. He owed $83,400 in back taxes, interest, and penalties on the fraudulently deducted consulting fees. His CPA license was suspended pending review, a process that took 19 months. He lost 4 corporate clients who cited reputational concerns in their termination letters. The accounting practice he had built over 22 years was sold in November 2022 for $190,000, $40.06% of its 2019 valuation. He moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. He continues to see Lily on alternating weekends. He continues to pay child support for both families simultaneously. Corinne earned her paralegal license in June 2021. She was hired by the same divorce law firm that represented her. Her first case involved a woman whose husband had hidden a second property. Corinne knew exactly where to look. $247,000 is a college education for both of Corinne's daughters, fully funded. It is 11 years of family vacations they never took. It is the kitchen renovation Daniel kept saying they'd get to. It is the retirement buffer that would have let Corinne stop working at 62. It is Lily's childhood, the school plays, the soccer cleats, the birthday cakes. It is also, and this is the number that doesn't get discussed, the cost of Daniel maintaining his own psychological stability, because the transfers were not just financial support. Behavioral economists call this moral licensing. Every dollar Daniel sent to Tricia made it easier for him to come home to Corinne. He was paying for his own peace of mind. He priced out his conscience at an average of $1,875 per month. For 11 years, that's what he decided it was worth. The spreadsheet was still on the kitchen table the morning after the divorce was final. White paper, ink smell. 14 years priced out at $1,875 a month. Corinne Whitfield folded it once. She heard the sound it made, dry, precise, the sound of a decision that had already been made. Daniel is not in prison. He lost his license. He lost his practice. He pays child support to 2 families simultaneously. Corinne earned her paralegal certification and now works for the firm that represented her. Her first case, a woman whose husband had hidden a second property. Corinne knew exactly where to look. Here is the question before you leave, and I want a real answer in the comments. If Corinne had never found out, if Lily had dialed the right number, if the spreadsheet had stayed in that hollow book forever, would Corinne's life have been better? Yes or no, drop it below. I read every single one. Subscribe. A new story drops every week.